Who is JC Higgins? And why is his name on my shotgun? Get ready to dig deep. This one's going to go further down than you think. Mill Serp Garage. All right. Yep. JC Higgins. We're back again with the JC Higgins. This is the Model 20. It is a pump action 12 gauge, 2 3/4 inch chamber. Oh, we got a poly choke. That's my first poly choke, believe it or not. Let's take a look at the other side. Very conventional looking, you know what I mean? But when you hear JC Higgins, you think cheap. You think there's a real shotgun out there somewhere. That's really what the shotgun is. The JC Higgins thing is just some Sears thing. This is what always went into my head whenever I saw it on a shotgun on a shelf somewhere, but I learned a lot with this guy. That's not necessarily true. So you remember, not that long ago, we had our, what is this one? Was like a 52, I think. It's a 16 gauge. What was this one? This was the Model 583-21. Nice bolt action. The video's up there. It wasn't that long ago I did this guy. This is the one, if you remember, if you have any JC Higgins lore bouncing around in your head, it was the one that as a 12 gauge would explode and kill you. But that one is in 16 gauge, so it was just kind of like a nice little niche to fall into where you get to use it and feel a little bit more secure knowing that it wasn't going to explode. There's a cool video on that one, and that it just kind of like made me keep my eye open for these JC Higgins ones. And when I saw this guy, I couldn't turn it down. Now, there's going to be a lot more than you think to this thing. This is not where I thought these JC Higgins things would normally go. But let's just get into it. It's Model 20, the JC Higgins like Sears number, that number with the dot, and it's 583-53 is what this one is. And then depending on, they were made from 1946 to 1961 as JC Higgins, okay? And every year, I think that number would go up one. So it would be 583.54, 583.55, all the way up, obviously, to 583.67. And that's the way you'd be able to date them. This one is a 583.53, which was the first year. So that makes this one 1946, just out of the war. Pretty cool, And a really cool thing about it is that this was originally made, like the patent, it was designed, it was made, it was put together originally as a JC Higgins. And it eventually got kicked over to High Standard, where a High Standard made it as a Model 200. There are several different ones. There was like a whole line that High Standard put out. It's where it went crazy. They sold to a bunch of different stores. We'll get into that later. But the coolest thing about this one, when I researched it, I looked at it in a store, in a gun store, and then went out to my car and actually sat and did some research. And when I really realized that it was a first year and I started looking into it, I was like, well, that's it. I'm just going in and buying it. I mean, you don't pay more than like a couple $100 for these anyway. So I'm like, and it was in really nice shape. So I grabbed it up, and it's pretty cool that it's a first year because of how much history that comes both before it was made and after. So let's touch on that a little bit. So first of all, let's just cover it. I mean, I did mention it at the beginning of the video. Who is this JC Higgins guy? Just in case you're not sure, you think it was just something that Sears threw together. It kind of is something they threw together, but there was a real guy named John Higgins. He was from Ireland, came to the U.S. in 1898 and started a job with Sears. Coming from Ireland, right into a job with Sears. Boom, young guy. Made it all the way up through the company. Was vice president at some point. Amazing. And this guy retired in 1930 from Sears after, what is that, 32 years with Sears. And at some point in their history, Sears decided to name their sporting goods stuff after him. And I don't think the guns started to be named after him until after the war. I'm not 100% sure. I just remember reading that somewhere, that it started off with, just regular sporting goods stuff, was JC Higgins stuff. And the guy's name was John Higgins. Maybe they came up with the JC because they were competitors with JC Penney. So maybe that's why they thought JC people would, I don't know. Advertising was weird back in like the 40s and the 30s, you know what I mean? But needless to say, they, where was I? I got lost. Oh yeah, they might have, after the war, might have been when they first started just calling the guns, naming the guns JC Higgins models. But this guy retired in 1930. He died in 1950. And as a tribute, they kept it going till 1960, the JC Higgins line. But in 1960, they switched to like a Ted Williams or something like that. They switched the name of that brand. It's 1962, actually, I have written down here. They switched to a Ted Williams line of products, and that was the end of the JC Higgins stuff. But there was a guy. There really was a guy. So yeah, it was designed originally, this one. And here, you know what we have to break into here? I have to talk about something. So somebody in the comments said to me on one of my videos, I don't even remember what video it even was, but the guy said, hey, thanks a lot. You used all of my information, and I don't even get any money for it. I did all the work. You put it all on your video, and and I didn't even get paid. And I was like, what? What is this guy talking about? And I looked at the video and saw that in the video, and I must admit, it was a lot of the stuff a lot of the information in the video. The guy was just commenting on a chat forum. It was like a savage chat forum. And he was just like, hey, I know a lot about this gun. It was made in this. It was done like this. It was followed the design from that. And he gave the information, and I showed the chat for him. I showed the pictures that he put up and the photographs he took of different things. And I didn't think I had to pay the guy. I mean, it's a chat forum, for crying out loud. You're not allowed. I don't know anything about this gun. I'm buying this gun. I don't know anything. Where do I get information? From the internet. I go on the internet and I find information and I make a YouTube video. I don't know why I'm not allowed to use that. I make like $4.32 from one of these videos. I mean, come on. It's like, this isn't the History Channel here. Well, anyway, so I have information that I got from online, and I'm just going to try to credit these people as much as possible. So here's what's interesting. If you want to look at gundata.com, you can find a list of the Sears and Roebuck guns. So here's the 583-21 I highlighted. I did this with my Mossbergs too, and a list of all the Mossbergs. And so that's the Model 120. It was Harrington and Richardson was the sister design. That was the 16 gauge bolt I just showed you. And then down here, it shows C583.53 through 583.67. That shows the different years. And it was as a sister to the high standard, Model 20, 12 gauge. And with high standard, it was called the, 120, right? The 200, sorry, Model 200. But look at this. Is a pretty nice list here of all of them. That's pretty, it's kind of convoluted and it jumps around all over the place, but it's interesting. You could find it. So here, let me pull up for you. Here you go. This is a post from the firearmsforum.com. And the name of the thread is HS Model 200 for high standard. Somebody was asking a question about the high standard. And there's some guys in here that talk about some pretty cool stuff here. Here's, and like, this is like over 10 years ago, but this guy will come on YouTube and say, hey, you used all my information without crediting me. So here, his SG Victor posted this whole list here of high standard shotguns and who they made them for. Like when the design got kicked over to high standard in 62, they hit the ground running, man. These are all, he writes here, these are from 69, late 73, you know, all these different places where they made them from. And the Flight King was the line of high standard guns that it evolved into, that the JC Higgins Model 20 evolved into. And there's this other really cool post. Now this guy really knows this stuff here, so I really, honestly, I am thanking this guy. Is Ralph 3796. He writes about who originally designed this. I couldn't find this anywhere online, so I don't, how, I feel like I really do need to give this guy credit and not just use the information. Where he got it from, I don't know, but he says this guy was an engineer at Winchester before coming to high standard. The patent for his pump action was assigned half to high standard and half to Sears, he's saying. The JC Higgins Model 20 sold by Sears predated all the high standard shotguns by several years, and it's a lot of years. So it's really inaccurate to refer to the Model 20 as a high standard Model 200. It's also been reported the Model 20 was based on a Remington patent. This is clearly not the case. So here's what's interesting. He's saying that if you compare the detailed drawings of the patent, and thanks to this guy, I was able to find the patent. Here's the patent. Okay, it's, if you want to take a look, it's here's the number for it. 2476196. And this patent is from July 12th, 1949. Now, a lot of times these patents, even though the gun seems to predate it or whatever, a lot of times these patents take some years too. That's why you see like patent pending could be on something. I wonder, wait, actually, what does this say? Does it say patent pending? Or I don't see anything. But here's the design of the action, the lifter, carrier, I'm not sure of these names actually, the bolt. It's very interesting with the bolt. This little porpoise part on the back here fits inside a recess in the receiver as the locking lug. And you could read to your heart's content here. Look how there's a lot of text when it involves with these patents. There's a lot going on there. So he's saying that Humiston, did I say his name right? Humiston? He, his patent was obviously a combination of, now I'm going to come get him here. I got this new microphone now, so even if I walk around, you stay with me. I hope the mic sounds good. Here's the Model 31. We just recently did the Model 31. And he says it's a combination of that and the Model 12. Here's our heavy duck Model 12 right here. Now, what's interesting is, one of the things about this shotgun that's interesting, let me move these off the table for now, and we'll take a look at them one by one, and I'll show you some of these interesting similarities. So if we take the I was going to call it high standard. If we take the JC Higgins Model 20 here, we look inside the loading port. It's very interesting that there's nothing in the way. You could just take a shell. These are snap caps here. You could just take a shell. There's no lifter to push out of the way or anything like that. You just drop it right in there, and you go right into the tube, and you could unload it the same way. Very convenient and reminiscent of, I'm going to tell you what that reminds you of. Well, we'll take a look at it in a minute, but I know that reminds you of something right away if you're a shotgun guy. The coolest thing is here, you're like, wait a minute, how is a round coming out of this tube and getting up there if there's no, you're used to having like a lifter here, like the Model 12. The Model 12, where's my 12? Model 12 does have one of those, you know. It's kind of obvious. You push it out of the way, you put the round in here, and then it's kind of obvious it pops out onto this, and this lifts it up into the bolt. But what does that here? It's something very telling about this design in that it doesn't have that until you open it up to a certain point. You're still wondering how it's going to happen, and then that happens. And this drops down. It kind of like surrounds the bolt. See that? So you don't even see it in there. You don't even see it. And then when you open it, it's kind of like skeletonized around the bolt. You see that? And then it drops down. So if you have a round in here, it just sits there. And it waits. It waits, it waits, it waits until that drops down. Then it pops out. And then so that's what brings it in. Now, that design was heavily borrowed from the Model 31. Here's the Model 31. The Model, you could even see that it has that float. I couldn't, has the slide release in a different spot. It even has that floating. There's like see this floating part, how the bolt is separate from this, you know, you could all just yell at me in the comments at what the nomenclature. I worked a long day today, so it's just not coming to me, but it's basically like this part that the bolt rides upon, you know, and you could see that they don't even travel back and forth at the same time. See, that could travel without the bolt, and it has, and when the bolt locks in, it still has ability to move around. See that? And it's that same type of movement is here on the JC Higgins. It's very, very similar. You could see how that's borrowed. You could see the same thing, how that's moving around. Not actually attached to the bolt, let's say, but just kind of controlling it. And that borrowed heavily. Also, the lockup, being that the Model 31 here, see how it locks up in the back? That's where this part of the bolt was important, because the bolt being shaped like this is the back of it. So when that back of it comes up, that hump right there is fitting into the hole that you could see in the back of the receiver. See it back there? And that's the 31. The JC Higgins, you could see that hole even better because it's a very large cutout mortise there in the back. See it back here? Look at that. Look at that huge cutout for the bolt to fit into. And you could see the bolt on the JC Higgins. See that? You could see the beginnings of that porpoise part right there, and then boom, right in there, it locks in. Very, very strong. Now he's saying, and when I say he, hold on, I don't want anybody to get excited. Ralph 3796 is saying it also borrowed heavily from the Model 12, which was a TC Johnson design. He writes, it's easy to see that Humston was trying to integrate the best features of both of these guns in his design. It's no wonder many who have Model 20s or later high standard pumps based on the same patent claim they have the slickest actions of any pump they've ever handled. With the Model 20, you got the love child of the Model 12 and the Model 31. That's pretty cool. That is definitely a cool way to put it. And I definitely see the similarities of the of the Model 31. But now, when we start looking at the Model 12, it gets a little stickier. I definitely see some similarities with the bolt. It's more like the other parts of the action, like maybe the trigger guard and the bolt, because it definitely has different action here with the shell carrier and everything. But definitely a similar design. Of course, the Model 12 design is much older too. And I was saying to you that something's gonna be familiar to you, and I wouldn't expect the Model 31 Remington to be familiar to you. They didn't make many of those, but the Mossberg Model 500. Here's where it all comes to fruition here, because the Model 500, the Mossberg Model 500 was introduced in 1960. So that was well after this design of Humiston here messing around with these Model 31s and these Model 12s. And sure enough, when we get in here with the Mossberg Model 500, this is what might have been familiar to you. Here we go again with the same type of bolt design and the same type of lifter. Look at that. Amazing, huh? Even the sound is similar, and the look of even just the look of it. But it does lock up differently. It does lock up in the front with a locking lug. You could see it here if you look real close. You can see that locking lug pop up. That might not have been a good. Oh, that's a good angle. I see the light is on it. Watch. You'll see the locking lug pop up. Watch it right here. See that? See that locking lug right here? Here, I'll rock it back and forth. You can see it. So it's a lockup right here with a locking lug. It's a little bit different as far as that's concerned, but it definitely borrowed, heavily from that. And so it's amazing to draw the lines all the way from this in 1946, an innocuous JC Higgins Sears shotgun designed by some guy named Humiston, who never really made a blip on anybody's radar when they're talking about like gun designing history. And this thing borrowed from some cool designs and led to some really cool designs. And in the middle, it created a shotgun here that you could buy at Sears that was just literally, this is like a forged steel receiver here, or whatever. This is like real deal. So this is milled, you know what I mean? And it got some slack, this gun, because people were making fun of it because the barrel didn't disengage from it. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like a true takedown. All these other guns, you could take them apart and you could take the barrel off. This one, the barrel was like permanently screwed in there. And I guess around that era, it was a big thing to have a shotgun that came apart. You know what I mean? That you could put in like a duffel bag or something like that. And the fact that this didn't do that seemed to really affect its sales from what I'm reading. But it does make for a stronger design. It makes for a more accurate gun, I would think, too, because you don't have to worry about like a loosening up in here where it starts to lose its accuracy or not be consistent. Certainly doesn't bother me. I mean, I just throw my guns in a bag. I shot trap with this thing, by the way. I got a 23 and then a 22. So it's right there. I mean, even with this poly choke, here, I want to talk about this poly choke. This is my first poly choke. So there are some poly chokes. The early, I saw this ad from the 70s here. Where did I write this down? 1971, there was a deluxe, a standard, and a skeet. This one looks like the deluxe in that picture, but I'm not sure if this is period, if this came on it. I mean, I'm not really sure. I wasn't even really sure how to set it. Apparently, you just screw it in all the way till you can't screw no more, and then that should be on full. And it did. It ended up on full. I guess you line it up with the sight, I'm assuming. And then I just left it there. And it did feel like a full choke. It worked like a full choke. And I was hitting them. And it's not a, it's a 28-inch barrel. Let me get, where's my information on this thing? Let's see. So this one's a 1946. No serial numbers on these. It's pre-68. 12 gauge, 2 3/4, 28-inch barrel. Capacity is 5 in the tube plus 1 in the chamber. Jeweled bolt and cartridge lifter. And that's it. I mean, it wasn't one of the deluxe ones. It doesn't have any of the other deluxe features, like the ribbed barrel, you know, doesn't have that. But it did have the jeweled bolt and the shell carrier. And what was I going to say? I forgot. There were other, what was it again? There was one other like defining feature that these things had as deluxe models, but that they're all in 2 3/4. So there was no like 3-inch Magnum ones, you know what I mean? So it's not like there was a deluxe model like the Heavy Duck I just showed you over here. The Model 12 was a 3-inch chamber. These didn't do that. They were all 2 3/4. That might have been another thing that slowed down sales a little bit, because I think the 3-inch shells were big. You know what I mean? It was whatever. You know what? It's tailored exactly for what I would need it for, so I didn't really mind. Now, what were some of the things? I could tell you a couple of things that are like weird about it that I don't really like. One thing is that they kind of jumbled up the safety and the slide release, like all jumbled up together over here. So it's like if you're shooting trap and you go to open it, then you throw a shell in here. So you throw a shell in here and you close it. You're ready to shoot. And I hate when you call for a bird and then the safety was on and everybody's kind of like, what the? And you got to like take the safety off and then call again for the bird. It's an awkward thing that I mean anyone would try to avoid it, but I hate that. And this gun kind of like makes that happen. And you can change it to make the safety go the other way. You can make it like a left-hand safety. And the procedure is kind of weird. On some of the newer versions of this, and I'll get to newer versions in a minute, they would have that hole that you stick a paper clip in. I know you've seen that. There's like a little hole, and when you press it, you get the ball detent kind of like pushed back, and then you could slide the safety out and the little spring and ball come out. I've seen that before. This doesn't have that little slot, that little hole. And I found this online where it gives a procedure where you actually have to, sorry about the crooked picture, but it was like, that's all I could get for it. You had to kind of turn it. You had to like push it to the safe side and then turn it and it would come out. So I thought maybe just remove it completely, the safety, and then I realized after a couple of games I was kind of used to it, as long as I knew to look out for it. But like, that's a weird way to jam it all in together over there like that. But they made some changes to this gun. So let me see, what were the changes? The new improved JC Higgins. Here's an ad for it. So this was somewhere between 46 and 61. I don't know where. I tried to research and find out. I wish the catalog would have had the date on the bottom. But because if that was the first introduction of the new improved one, I would have the date. But of course, this one catalog page does not have the date. But I would think it's somewhere in like the late 50s. I would think like mid 50s, probably halfway through production. The new improved JC Higgins had a magazine cutoff switch. The safety was moved to the front of the trigger guard up here to avoid that problem. And it had a different stock. It had like more of a pistol grip stock, more of like a contoured forend, and that was the new improved JC Higgins. I'm kind of happy right where I landed. I kind of like that it's not the improved one, even though I don't really like that safety thing or whatever. I just kind of like that it's the original configuration, number one. I kind of like that it is the JC Higgins one, and the first one. So it was a long history that led to the creation of this thing. And then like this was the first year. It's pretty cool. So you don't even know, there's no serial numbers to actually tell when during the year this one was made, you know, when during the production. But if this was first year, who knows? It could have been way towards the beginning of production. But I'll tell you one thing. It's one of those shotguns where, again, these are snap caps. It's one of those shotguns where it's just such a rock solid feel to how it works. Is that it's hard to do it from this position. It's so super functional. It's like it feels like an animal. Like you just would not be able to break it. It has that kind of feel, which is where it's funny how like the Mossberg 500 like carried that type of feel. It's the very same type of feel. It's funny how borrowing from the design, I mean, listen to it. I know all shotguns like sounds like the same, it's like you're racking inside, but you could just almost hear it has that same cadence to it. Hard to explain, which carries through, of course, the same thing here. You hear it's kind of like a click kind of sound to it, you know what I mean? And they all have that. It's interesting. There's definitely a you know, a conglomeration across the design floor with all of these. They all borrowed from each other, and now the it's so cool that it has a friend, the JC Higgins brothers. So this guy is, I think this one's a 52. It's so hard to remember. I mean, after a while, they're like, it's like if you had that many kids, you'd be like, how what are you, 12, not 9? How old are you, son? You know, you don't even remember. But yeah, this one's a 52. And the new pump one now is a 46. And I'm digging these JC Higgins. I really am. This 16 gauge one, this thing shoots great. This thing is fun at trap. Like, so using a bolt action is fun. And this thing, let me tell you, I took footage and the wind blew my camera down. So I propped my camera up against my gun bag facing, you know, the range. And then I could like kind of zoom in. That's why the quality isn't so great when I have the shooting videos at the trap range, because I zoom a little when I do the editing and put it together. And this time I only went there to shoot 2 quick rounds. I didn't have a lot of time. And when I got back to my phone, it was flat down on the table. So I was like, oh, great. It fell over. Hopefully I have enough footage. But it literally fell over 5 seconds after I turned around and walked up to the line. So, but, you know, you don't really see anything but my back and some birds getting broken. But it would have been impressive because I did really well. And taking it apart is pretty cool. Oh, I can show you something else cool. I would have hated if I would have missed this. The early ones have something cool that the other ones don't have. So you see how the bolt travels like this. See how like way up here is the bolt going into battery, and you can see the extractors, the claw extractors. Again, it has these dual monster claw extractors. You see them? There's one here, one on the other side. Those kind of get split open, and the bolt goes into battery. Then that clicks in behind it. This this part that rides underneath the bolt. I guess it'd be the bolt carrier, I suppose. It brings the bolt up. The bolt clicks into place right there. See how the bolt is in battery already. I can still move this a little bit, but it's like locked in there. Well, you could see down here. Let me get a pointer. Sorry, should have had that from the very beginning. What could I use? I'll use one of these. I bought a bunch of these, by the way. These are really cool to use for cleaning and stuff like that. Right here is where the action bar is here, connected to the wood. So this action bar is what you're doing to manipulate. It goes in here and it fits inside this piece on the side right here, this relief. And here's the action bar right here sliding back and forth. here's where it connects to this carrier. This on the newer ones, it was only a couple of years, maybe only 1 year like this, and they changed it, I guess, to make it simpler, just to get rid of this part, because this right here is like a springy part here, and you could disengage it if you wanted to. You can disengage this from here. See that? Where now the action bar is not connected to this anymore. Let me pull it back up here. You see that? Now the action bar is disengaged. And then to get it back in again, you hold it, you just could click it right back into place and pick it back up again. You can't do that with the newer ones. This fits in, this action bar block right here fits into the bolt carrier when you're putting it together. And then it just stays like that for good. So if you're looking at one and you see this, you look underneath and you see this hook right here that hooks on there, then it would mean that it's one of the older ones. That's the only thing I could tell you, that if you're looking at them, to, right away, as soon as you look underneath, it's JC Higgins, one of these, you could see. But you can always tell the year. Like I said, you could tell the year very easily right here. Just remember that 583.53 would be the first year, 46. So then 54 would be 47, 55, 48, and so on till you get to 61 when they stopped making them. Proof tested 12 gauge full choke. See, it says full on it, which leads me to believe that this poly choke was added after, because I don't think it would say full on the barrel if it was a poly choke. But this appears to be the, the deluxe one with the relief here, the like air relief. Like horribly wrong nomenclature today. All right, it's been a while. Listen, it was a tough end of the winter for me job-wise, and now like motorcycle season starts. I'll be getting in here though, trust me. I got some stuff for you. We got the new 22 realistic snap caps. Don't forget about that. 10% off with coupon code MILSURPGarage, MILSURPGARAGE. Yeah, let's not forget about these things. Here they are. Look at them. There they go. They did it. So check out my last video. I got a nice Marlin 22 up there where I cycle some of them through. And that's the story, ladies and gentlemen. JC Higgins Model 20. And we'll be back soon with some cool stuff, so stay tuned.